President,
Majority Leader, we're in a quorum call.
I ask unanimous consent the quorum be dispensed with.
Without objection.
We have 26 days left in the calendar year, and there's still a lot we have to do. This week, the House is expected to take up the annual defense authorization bill, priming the Senate to take action perhaps as soon as next week. The Senate's work on funding the government also continues. I just finished a meeting with the Republican leader about finding a constructive path forward to keep the government funded next fiscal year. Leader McConnell and I have both publicly affirmed the importance of getting this done, because our troops, our military, and our national security depends on it. And this Wednesday, in fact, the Senate will hold another classified briefing on the state of play in Ukraine, and I hope that my colleagues recognize how funding the government is inextricably tied, supporting Ukraine while protecting American national security here at home. The two are tied together. So we're going to continue negotiations until we get the job done on funding the government. Both sides recognize the importance, so now both sides must chart a path forward together. On judges, Mr. President, the Senate is just a few confirmation votes away from reaching another milestone. Soon we will confirm our 90th federal judge under President Biden. I want to thank my colleague, Chair of the Judiciary Committee, Senator Durbin, for his diligence and hard work in this area of getting nominees appointed to the bench. We vote today on Judge number 88, Doris Pryor, tapped by the President to serve as U.S. Circuit Judge for the 7th Circuit. She'll be the 26th Circuit Court judge the Senate confirms in the last 2 years. These appointments are critical. Even though a conservative majority presides on the Supreme Court, the bulk of all federal cases are still resolved by Circuit Court judges. If confirmed, Judge Pryor will make history as the first woman of color from Indiana ever to sit on the 7th Circuit. One judge at a time, the Senate continues fulfilling its mission of making sure our courts reflect the diversity and dynamism of America. A graduate of University of Central Arkansas and Indiana School of Law, Judge Pryor served as a clerk for both the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals and for the Eastern District of Arkansas before turning to public defense. She has also more than a decade of experience as federal prosecutor, focusing on national security and prosecuting individuals who sought aid to terrorist organizations. While when not involved in donning black robes of a jurist, Judge Pryor is deeply involved in the Indianapolis community, founding youth programs, mentoring future lawyers, and helping the formerly incarcerated to re-enter civilian life. In short, Judge Pryor has the brains of a jurist and the heart of a public servant, a perfect combination for someone serving a lifetime appointment on the bench. I look forward to her confirmation today, and Democrats will continue making judicial nominations a top priority in the new year. Finally, Donald Trump cannot seem to go a week without doing or saying something disgusting, dishonorable, and frankly disqualifying for high office. 2 weeks ago, it was a dinner with a pair of loathful anti-Semites, which to this day he has not announced. He says, well, I didn't know that one of these men, Fuentes, was coming. He still hasn't announced them, now that he knows he was there. On Friday, he took his vile rhetoric to a new and horrible nadir when he called for the, quote, termination of the Constitution of the United States because he lost the 2020 election. Aside from the pettiness and the ego of that, it's as if Donald Trump is on a mission to find new ways to sink lower and lower to the detriment of America. How can anyone hope to take the presidential oath of office to preserve and protect the Constitution while simultaneously calling for the Constitution's termination? It's wholly disqualifying on its face. And now that Donald Trump is being rightfully criticized for attacking the Constitution, his response is to double down and deny he ever did so in the first place, rather than have the decency to own up to it. I'm glad some Republicans seem increasingly willing to condemn Trump's lunacy, but we need more voices filling the silence. We need nothing less than an avalanche of condemnation from Republicans. But sadly, all we've gotten so far are just a few flurries here and there. Republicans need to speak up, because if America doesn't extricate itself from Donald Trump and his MAGA ideology, it could undercut our American way of life. This isn't a partisan scuffle. When a former president calls for the termination of the U.S. Constitution, There can be no silence, no equivocation, nothing less than total and fierce condemnation. So to my Republican colleagues, enough is enough. Reject MAGA, reject Trump, condemn these awful attacks on the U.S. Constitution. I yield the floor.